be discussing the Supreme Court's recent ruling on former President Trump's financial records.
Followed by a look at the new vaccine incentives implemented by grocery stores.
And finally, we're committed to bringing you the news, views, and info to go on this episode of the Report Roundtable Discussion. I'm Amanda Mendoza.
I'm Tristan Maglunog.
I'm Brie Eastlick.
And I'm Jorge Flores. As you can see, we're continuing to practice social distancing, and we're going to conduct our episodes via Zoom for the foreseeable future. Although we cannot be together in person, we invite you all to continue to be part of the discussion. Follow us on Twitter at @TheReportCSUF or on Titan TV Instagram, Titan TV CSUF, to keep in touch with us and view our new content.
Additionally, Titan Communications is currently part of CSUF's Titan Give campaign, a full day of giving on Tuesday, March 9th in support of the Titan community. Help Titan Communications support, mentor, and train the next generation of content creators, filmmakers, and journalists. You can visit our page at titansgive.fullerton.edu for more information. Starting off with our first story, a crucial and long-waiting decision was handed down by the U.S. Supreme Court on Monday morning. The court has granted access for New York prosecutor Cyrus Vance Jr. to acquire former President Trump's financial records. Monday's ruling comes shortly after Trump's appeal to block prosecutors' request after claiming the subpoena issued by Vance was, quote, overbroad and issued in bad faith, end quote. Trump's subpoena includes documents that date back from January 2011 to August 2019. The records will not be disclosed to the public, but will be released to a grand jury in order to investigate allegations over Trump's potential tax violations made by Vance's office. This decision follows the Supreme Court's previous July ruling that Trump does not have immunity to shield his records. These documents will allow investigations into alleged hush money payments, bank and/or insurance fraud, and any potential cover-ups. Now let's go over that again. The tax returns will not be released to the public. According to CNN, they stated, quote, the documents will be subject to grand jury secrecy rules that restrict their public release, end quote. Now, this doesn't mean that they can't be leaked some other way, though. This is a huge story, and the case has gone on for 2 years. It wouldn't be surprised if, someone ended up finding a way to release them anonymously. But for now, the public will not know what is on those papers. He tried fighting the Supreme Court and has fought Congress in the past over his taxes. And whatever he's trying to keep hidden can't be good. If he's willing to try and fight the Supreme Court, there's no way that whatever is on there can be good for him. Now, what do you guys think? What could this mean for the future of this case and Trump's post-presidency life?
It goes to show Cy Vance now has access to all of these financial records, immense amounts. We're not sure how many there are. Obviously, they spanned over the course of 8 years, but we do know that Trump obviously only paid $750 on his first year as a president. We know that he's under numerous tax crimes, numerous bank and insurance frauds. But what's interesting to note is that there are a lot of facts that are often overlooked by the media and that are completely out of the public discourse. The New York Times, in their tax return leak, noted that Trump wrote off $26 million of consultant fees, but in reality, he gave it to his daughter, Ivanka. In 2017, it was noted that Saudi Arabia funneled money to Trump's campaign, and in turn, Trump signed a multi-billion-dollar weapons deal to only find out that Saudi Arabia used those arms to commit a genocide in Yemen. And not just that, that is a violation of the Emoluments Clause, which states that any public official cannot receive money from foreign investors. Not just that, Trump is also in a decades-long dispute with the IRS over tax refunds. This is the beginning of Trump's demise. It's going to be really tough for him to get out of this pit of misery. Jail time is looking more realistic than ever.
Tristan, that's very interesting that you said that. And what I also heard is he's also accused of cheating his niece out of millions in inheritance money. So I think that we're going to see more and more of these cases build up. But if he didn't have anything to hide, I don't see why he would have a problem showing his financial records. And to be honest, I don't know, like you said, if Trump will even get out of this one. So Trump tried asking the Supreme Court for immunity last July on account of, quote, state criminal subpoena seeking his tax returns, end quote, according to CNN. And the court voted 7-2 that he will not be granted immunity. I personally believe that he thought that by packing Supreme Court with Republicans or people he thought might be loyal to him, that he can get out of these, cases, out of these lawsuits. But if he can get out of these ones, I don't know if he can personally. What do you think, Jorge?
Totally. Now, speaking as a political science major student, I'm impressed by this kind of opinions from former President Donald Trump. I think that when someone in the political position like he was as President of the United States and trying to look for immunity, what are you hiding, Mr. Trump? That's my question. And I feel very disappointed to see how he's always trying to look for an option or trying to look for an exit whenever he has problems. When you see that a political person or a political actor is trying to hide something, you probably know that there's something behind that he or she doesn't want you to see. And just because of that, we gotta be very cautious to see if Donald Trump is going to be going for office in the future. That's my concern. And I think we gotta be very, very careful as voters. Moving on to our next story, as the COVID-19 vaccine slowly becomes more available to the public throughout the country, some companies have decided not to make the vaccine mandatory for their employees. Instead, they are opting to offer incentives for employees. Grocery stores, which have been deemed as essential businesses, are currently talking to have the lead in vaccination incentives. Meanwhile, more than 2.4 million grocery store workers across the country have yet to be vaccinated to promote a healthier and safer in-person workspace. Companies like Publix, Kroger, Aldi, and Target were some of the first to enforce mask requirements in their stores. And now they are offering their employees benefits like bonuses, gift cards, and paid time off if they receive the vaccine. Whether or not these employers will be held liable should the vaccine have adverse effects on the employees is still being reviewed by the Federal Equal Employment Opportunity Commission's office. Guys, as a report, we did a poll and we were asking you, our audience, your opinion about, with a growing number of stores offering incentives for employees to get the vaccine, do you think this is the right approach to getting people vaccinated? And these were the results. 62.5% of our audience said yes, that they agree with the incentives. However, a 37.5% they say no, but we should continue offering it. One of our viewers, Daniel, he was saying something like, encouraging vaccination to collectively beat the virus is a good thing, but there is something inherently exploitative about some of these corporations offering measly incentives without providing hazard pay prior while they make record profit during a new economic depression. Also, he was saying incentives for vaccination would be great on the pretense for workers being paid fairly with hazard pay beforehand. Guys, this is such a controversial topic because if companies, they are trying for their employees to be vaccinated, we gotta know that maybe there's a possibility of not to be that effective, the vaccine. So what are the hazards and what are the consequences of taking the vaccine if you're not sure if you, first of all, you wanna take it? And also what happens if they're just giving kind of incentives for you to take it? The thing is, should it be obligatory or should they just continue to incentive? Brie, what do you think about all of this?
I don't see this as a problem. Now, if they were making the vaccine mandatory, then I can see how they can face consequences if the vaccine possibly affected them down the road. Now, if they offer these incentives, though, it's not harming anybody. If you can get the vaccine, great. Here, take a gift card. If you don't take it, then no harm. It's okay. We won't force you to do it. I myself work at Sprouts. We have not been offered anything as of right now if we got the vaccine, but I definitely would take my company up on these offers if they did. As for what the viewer Daniel said, I agree with him. If we as frontline workers, if they care about us so much and our health and well-being, then keep commending us on our work, but we don't see anything, I don't know, physical or anything else that they're doing besides saying, oh, thank you so much for being out here. So I don't see a problem with this. There's nothing wrong with giving us a gift card if we decide to get the vaccine, as long as they don't force us to do it, because some people are still not happy with the vaccine and how quick it was. And I understand that. But one thing I want to point out is Los Angeles County, they released that they're going to give grocery workers hero pay, which is an extra $5 an hour for 120 days. And this is awesome. And it's going to benefit families so much. And this is proof that they care about their well-being and they care about the health of their employees. Now, I think more counties and companies should jump on board of this. With the money that grocery stores bring in, especially when COVID hit, they can prove that they appreciate their employees by raising them a little bit of hazard pay.
I definitely like what you had to say there, Brie, about how Los Angeles is implementing this essence called hero pay and hazard pay. But the reality is, unfortunately, not all grocery stores across America are implementing hazard pay. Hazard pay, by definition, is extra payment for working under dangerous conditions. The pandemic is obviously a threat to the workers. These workers, grocery workers, are all essential because what they do for us is essential. The food and supplies that we so rely on during these tough times are much needed, and these workers are out there on the front lines distributing them for us. If these workers get sick, who is gonna give us our food? Who's gonna give us our supplies? That's the problem right there. We need to have these incentives enact so that multiple grocery workers across America can get vaccinated.
So Tristan and Bree, I agree with you on some points, but I also have to disagree with you on some points. Part of me says I understand why it would be voluntary to get the vaccine, because I'm a little bit concerned too. It came out in less than a year and now they want us to take it. But at the same time, if one person doesn't have the vaccine, then it's putting everyone at risk, including the customers. So I'm having some mixed feelings over here, but I think possibly if they make it mandatory, but they also have some sort of incentive to do it within a certain time frame, maybe within 3 to 6 months, then I think that would be a good compromise. But I'm still deciding whether or not that would be a good idea. Moving on to some CSUF news, the housing department at Cal State Fullerton has reportedly began preparing for the fall 2021 semester. Executive Director of Housing and Residential Engagement, Larry Martin, PhD, the CSU Chancellor's Office, and campus leadership are using local, state, and federal guidelines to make a decision on how resident halls will open and at what capacity. CSUF states they have been making decisions based on students' individual needs, such as limited access to technology, housing security, and environments that don't contribute to success during virtual learning. Just last semester, housing dropped 88% of its capacity in order to allow for physical distancing and student need prioritization. This semester, Martin expects capacity to rise to 25%. Students applying for housing will not be required to be vaccinated before their return to campus, but will be expected to comply with the protocols in place, such as physical distancing, hand washing, and mandatory mask wearing. Okay, everyone, so we've discussed the possibility of returning to in-person classes in the fall 2021 semester, but now that we're almost at the halfway point of the spring 2021 semester, the possibility of going back to campus seems closer than ever. But it's important to note that COVID cases in California has gone down by 6.2%, and vaccines have been proven to be 94.1% effective after the second dose. But do you guys think that housing can stay safe as we return to campus, and why?
That's a great question, Amanda. However, what my concern is about is that some students, they really need housing, whether they can or they can't take the test, or even just having the access for the vaccine that we do not have right now. I consider that this decision for them to start giving the opportunity for the applications for housing, that's a good idea. However, I still think that the CSUF needs to continue giving these free COVID-19 tests, and also to become our campus into a mass vaccination site for our students. That's my priority right now. So hopefully there could be kind of a solution in the next months. What do you think, Brie?
As much as I would love for CSUF to open for its students, I don't see how 25% is doable as well. Now, not only is this going to affect those who aren't chosen to live in the dorms, but it's also going to affect the parking situation even more than it has in the past. And it's going to be terrible for campus life as well. Now, as for the vaccine being required to live on campus, I think I'm going to have to agree with them by not making it mandatory. They would not want to deal with the consequences of forcing those to take the vaccine down the road and it hurting them, possibly long term. That could be a very bad lawsuit for them by having to make these people take the vaccine.
Bree, I appreciate what you had to say about regarding the 25% capacity, but I'm going to have to disagree with you on here. I personally think that it's doable and realistic. We know that we are under the premise that this summer, the goal is to get as many Americans as vaccinated as possible. We're not exactly sure how many students for Cal State Fullerton is going to get vaccinated, but under that premise, you can kind of assume that a majority will. And it's right. I like what you had to say that they should not make it mandatory for students to live on campus to be vaccinated, because in reality, not everyone is going to take the vaccine. Note that there are the free COVID tests. And if they really, really want to have a safe environment for the students to live in, they could administer weekly COVID tests for the students, similar to kind of like how athletes are getting tests every single day. These students could go weekly tests and see if what they're doing is correct and safe and feasible. Although the budgets for that may not be feasible or allocated, but it is an idea to hopefully consider.
Tristan, I'm going to ask you a question real quick before you move on. So right now, we currently require CSUF students to take the hepatitis B and measles vaccine in order to attend school. Do you think that down the road, if let's say we don't make it mandatory, or let's say in a few years maybe we do you think that making the vaccine mandatory, how long until from now to in the future, how long until CSUF could make it mandatory for people to take this vaccine in order to attend school?
I believe, Reed, the goal, once again, is to try to enable herd immunity. That's to get roughly 75 or 80% plus of the whole population to get vaccinated. That's going to take a while, but that is the goal to have for this 2021. It may carry on to 2022. But I think the COVID vaccine would have to be required to attend school, perhaps as soon as next year.
And Tristan, let me add something to that. According to FICOR, that's a research study institution right now, and they are telling us that by July or August, we're going to reach that herd immunity. So it's just about hope, guys. Probably we're not looking for 5 or 6 months later. Maybe it's just about 2 or 3 months away from us. So it will be good if they are starting already with a 25% capacity. Then I think, and I agree with that solution. I think it's a progressive kind of solution, but it's going to work out.
That's interesting, Jorge. I agree with that because though I understand, like I mentioned before, that people may be concerned about the effects of the vaccine, in the end, I think it's all about herd immunity and making sure that everyone's safe and that everyone feels safe going back to campus. So I think maybe after this first semester, I wonder if everyone will be required to take the vaccine to ensure that everyone could feel safe and that everyone stays healthy.
That being said, we're moving on to our final topic for today. Happy Black History Month, Titans. All month long, we are going to feature stories that celebrate the amazing achievements and accomplishments made by Black people. This week, we're highlighting Malcolm X's daughter, Ilyasah Shabazz, who recently went on Good Morning America and other talk shows to discuss her father's legacy. As Malcolm X has been a prominent topic of discussion all throughout social media, Ilyasah shines light on the importance of taking these important discussions about Black's history and civil rights one step further, particularly by educating students at an early age. She shares her opinions on school curriculum and its lack of Black history when teaching American history. As a part of her efforts to bring awareness, Ilyasah has also written a novel on her father's upbringing titled The Awakening of Malcolm X. Her virtual book tour has included schools and students as a start to educating and mobilizing the youth on Black history and civil rights. When I was in high school and middle school, I learned about Black history, but truth to be told, I feel like the curriculum at my school did not place a strong emphasis enough on learning about Black history. They focused on the American Revolution, the Great Depression, but not so much on Martin Luther King Jr., Malcolm X, the Civil Rights Movement. Truth to be told, during my time here at Cal State Fullerton, I learned more about Black history more than ever before. I believe that Ilyasah is right. Black history is American history. It's really important for the youth of today to learn about these at such a young age so that we may live in a more open-minded world.
Black history heritage is so important to be learned since elementary, middle school. From K to 12, we need to know more about the Black community and the Black leaders. Just like you were mentioning, I didn't know a lot about Malcolm X. My teachers, they were just telling me more like a rebel kind of side of him. But he was more than a rebel. He was a social activist. If we change the way that we are educating our kids, maybe they at the end, they're going to understand that Black American history is part of our country since hundreds of years ago till this point and in the future. What do you think, Brie?
Growing up, I barely learned anything except for white history at my elementary, middle school, and high school. And as well, like Tristan, it wasn't until I attended CSUF where I took my American Studies courses and I actually learned the truth about everybody else's history. And it shouldn't be that way. This is such an important topic, and Shabazz was right and is doing a wonderful job at going to these schools and making sure that kids get informed and is trying to change the future of school education. Everyone who enters the schoolroom should be able to be taught everybody's education, not just one side. So I very much commend her for doing this. What about you, Amanda?
Same here. Well, the schools I went to, they didn't really put emphasis on Black history. We learned about Martin Luther King, Rosa Parks, and Harriet Tubman. And to my knowledge, it's pretty much it. And so years later, when I was in high school, I had to do my own research to even learn about Malcolm X. That's really interesting. And I wish I would have known more about Black history, especially about my own culture. And Honestly, I hope that maybe one day I can educate myself more about his journey by reading Shabazz's novel about her father.
And although Black History Month may be over, it doesn't mean that we stop honoring the Black individuals who have shaped our lives. Every day is a day to give reverence to their legacies. Because once again, as Ilyasah said, Black history is American history. And that being said, that's all the time we have today on the Report Roundtable Discussion. We hope you have a safe week, everyone, and stay tuned for more news, views, and info. I'm Tristan Maglunog.
I'm Bree Eastlick.
I'm Jorge Flores.
And I'm Amanda Mendoza. As always, stay fresh, Fullerton.